Canton Townie sing this song, doo-da, doo-da. Canton corruption all day long, oh doo-da day. To continue on with my last Untold story, and I should just point out here that this is going to be 2 more videos because there's a whole lot more to unpack here. I wanted to put some images on the screen to help describe what it is that I noticed about John O'Keefe's clothes when they were shown during the trial. Unfortunately, I think that that's going to throw the algorithm into a tizzy because it's pretty graphic. So instead, I'm going to describe something that happened to me when I was a kid. I'm sure you've all been there and you're all going to be able to key with what I'm saying and even remember something similar. So when I was about, probably 8 or 9 years old, I was playing out the back of our property where my stepfather had laid several truck tyres flat on the ground. I'm not sure what for, but kids don't tend to ask these sort of questions. So it's just the rim of the tyre, and these are split rims. So they have a locking ring that releases the inner rim. They're often prized apart with a crowbar or something, and then you're left with this sharp edge sticking up. Anyway, I'm playing, I guess you could call it hopscotch. I don't know what I was doing. I was hopping between the rims, putting one foot in the hole and then jumping over to the other rim with my foot in the hole. And of course, as you've already probably guessed, I tripped over. And on this sharp edge of the locking ring, I gouged a big hole out of my shin. And it's a scar, it's a fairly big scar, that I still have to this day. When it happened, of course I was in pain, because bashing your shin's probably one of the most painful things you could do. So I was rolling around from that for a while, but I didn't see any blood. I saw the bone and some flesh, but no blood. So of course when I recovered from the pain, I got up and continued on with what I was doing. But this is a hot summer's day, and so being upright in the heat like that, eventually it did start bleeding. In fact, it bled a lot. In fact, it bled so badly that everywhere I walked I left footprints. Until finally I noticed I was bleeding pretty hard. At which point my mother put some medical gauze over it and taped it all up and cleaned me up, etc. And I went to bed that night, but when I woke up the next morning, the blood had seeped through all of the gauze. There was no part of it that was left white, and it was solid, like a piece of cardboard stuck to the wound. But there was no way I was letting anyone go near it, because I knew that my stepfather would just rip it off. And my mum was trying to convince me, let me just put some saline on it, just soak it for a bit, it'll come off really easy. But that was just a trick so that my stepfather could rip it off. Well, that's how the 8-year-old mind thinks anyway. So I had this cardboard bloodied gauze stuck to my leg for at least another day. And the point is, that's what happens to blood when there's a lot of it and it gets onto fabric and it dries. It doesn't become faded and washed out, it just gets darker and darker and darker. The images I wanted to show you are from other murders where the clothing had been recovered, demonstrating exactly what I'm talking about here. It's from covering other true crime cases that what I was expecting to see regarding John's clothing is not what we actually saw. And apparently I wasn't the only one.
That's the next exhibits. Okay.
Yeah, I'm interested in where the blood is on his shirt. Is it dribbled down the front like when you get cracked in the face? You take a solid shot to the nose, it starts bleeding all over you, drips all over your bib area? Is that what we're going to see?
Ms. Harden, I'm putting up on the screen now what's been marked as Exhibit 190. Do you recognize
That's
that?
it. Bloody nose.
Yes, I do.
That's it. I'm done.
That
I'm
is
done.
the photograph I took of item 7-18. It is the exterior front.
And Stillman, I'd like to have 9790, the next photograph.
I found Andrea's reaction to be the most profound out of all of the reactions that I watched because she's an amateur boxer. I would say that's an understatement considering she trains others, Either way, you don't have to be a lawyer or a medical professional to see that that blood clearly dripped downwards like you would expect from gravity. And, as Andrea points out, this is a whole other story than falling backwards on your back and then bleeding out on the ground. And this isn't the type of blood that I just described that builds up on the fabric surface and turns into cardboard and gets darker and darker as it gets older and older. We'll ignore the fact that this photo was taken in November of 2023, just months before the trial started, indicating that there indeed was a scramble to pull some evidence together at the other end because Karen Reid didn't plead out at the start like she was supposed to, and just focus on the direction of the blood flow and the appearance that it may have been washed by, I don't know, someone with a penchant for cleaning, which was mentioned multiple times throughout the trial. Nicole. Sorry. Something in my throat there. Where was I? Oh, that's right. Even if you could explain away the gravity-defying blood flow on John's shirts, how do you explain blood on his jeans? In the Commonwealth's theory, he has been hit by the vehicle, flown 30 feet, and landed on his back. So how did blood get on the front of his jeans? What's more, how did blood get on the cuff of his jeans? Remember, all John's injuries were to his head and his arm, yet somehow there's blood on the bottom of his jeans. And you can't put that pooling of blood on the hem down to transfer from it being piled up in the corner. That's a pooling of blood right there on the left cuff of his jeans. But what do I know? I'm not a blood pattern expert. I just know how gravity works and what dried blood should look like. And that if I found the DNA of other people's blood on somebody's shoes, I would probably be wanting to know whose DNA that is. If at all I was trying to solve a murder, you know what I mean? I certainly wouldn't be leaving the investigation until a couple of months before trial, before I submitted them into evidence to have it all tested. This should have all been done way back before they even arrested Karen. To, rule out other suspects, for example. But no. Lally wasted all that time trying to rule out the dog. Is that because he knew if he tested all the other blood samples that he might come up with other suspects? Did he have a little earwig in his ear saying, "Don't you dare look into other suspects. Just nail Karen Reid"? Anyway, I'm getting a little off topic here. The point is, there's a whole lot more evidence than has been tested to date. Will we see a blood pattern expert at the next trial? I certainly hope so. Will we see more DNA testing regarding the other bloodstains that were found on John's clothes and shoes? I hope so. But as I'm sure everybody is well aware, all this costs money. Something the Commonwealth has an endless supply of, something that Karen doesn't. And that, my friends, is why we have innocent until proven guilty. So, to wrap up this video about Officer O'Keefe's blood, I would urge you all to go back and look at day 19 of the trial and study very closely anything else that you notice about the clothes. And then drop a comment below and I'll go and look at it if I haven't already discussed it or covered it to date. In the next installment of Untold Stories, I will be, with the help of some medical professionals, doing a deep dive on the blood evidence inside John's body. Because I know many of you are curious about it and it simply isn't a told story. Until then, toodaloo.